Welcome to another episode of CC Top Solutions. We've recently finished our revival of our 1965 Mustang. It runs and drives great. It doesn't stop at all.
We got no brake.
So what we're going to do now is tackle the brakes. I'm going to replace all 4 wheel cylinders as well as the master cylinder. And the original master cylinder on these is a single reservoir. Tisk tisk. That's not going to cut it. We're upgrading to a dual reservoir. Come along and check it out. Cars in the shop, first real step here, we're going to convert from a single cylinder master reservoir to a dual cylinder master reservoir because it's so much safer. And I wanted to kind of show you guys how this is done. Here is your output from the master cylinder going into this block. Here are your 2 front brake tubes, and this one here is your rear brake tube. I bought this kit from CJ Pony Parts that provides you all the parts you need to just go ahead and install a dual cylinder master cylinder, which I bought from Rock Auto. We're gonna go ahead and do all that. The first real step here is to get this stuff all disassembled without stripping any of these fittings. And the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna cover them all with penetrating oil. And then as we disconnect them, when I say any of these fittings, we're gonna have to disconnect this one and this one. The rest of them stay hooked up. Cover them with penetrating oil, and then as we release them, we use a tubing wrench and we just tap them with a hammer. So this way we're not actually putting any force on them, otherwise you will strip them. This is what I mean by you just gently tap away at this. To quote Vice Grip Garage, we have our Tanya Harding 1000. We get on here with our tubing wrench. We've already let the stuff soak in penetrating oil for good, I don't know, 2 hours while I wandered all over the place looking for the Tanya Harding. And you just gently tap away at these, because if you force them, they will strip. Yeah, it's stripping. All right, so option 2, since that one's rounding, if we could try and hold the block with a wrench at the same time, so this way the whole thing isn't flexing. So that's what we're gonna try next. As you can see, a 9/16 wrench fits on the block fairly snug. So then we hold it so it's got some tension. Then we go ahead and impact. And I can see that's moving. The big question is the wrench moving on the fitting or is the fitting loosening? Well, hey, you see the trick here. You just have to keep at it like this for a few minutes and hopefully it'll break free without damaging anything. Success, that worked. As soon as the tubing wrench actually moved a pretty good bit, I felt that it probably was legitimately broken free as opposed to stripped. And yeah, oh, wait a minute. That may not have worked. That did not work. This thing is stripping. Well, there is another trick. You can try and tighten it and then try and loosen it. Nope, it's stripping that way as well. That's when you get on it with some stronger tools. I use a set of lockjaw pliers. They never fail. These are what I end up using, these Irwin GV8s. And the reason I use them is because they have kind of a unique teeth pattern that they really end up digging into the fitting. And basically the harder you squeeze as you're trying to loosen, the harder they dig, and they work real well. Let's give it a shot. Did I manage to break it free? Boy, I hope I could do the same for the rear. Wow, that was easy. One take, piece of cake. Now let's do the back one. So I've struggled with these tubing fittings for years. And I'm just starting to wonder, because I don't think this should be that hard to come apart. It's only been like 20 years. I wonder if my wrench is kind of crappy. Take a look at how much play there is in this thing. This wrench is a real loose fit. This is like pathetically loose. Like no one, all right, so I'm holding the fitting's not moving at all. Look how much the wrench moves. So I think that's part of why I always round these. And if you look, I mean, it might be hard for you guys to see it, but there's some years of use in here. The flats, they're they themselves are somewhat rounded. Perfect testament to always have high quality tools. I'm gonna go on Amazon right now and see if I can find something a little better. I remembered I had a set of Pittsburgh brand crow's feet. So I popped on a 3/8 inch crow's foot. Oh my God, talk about a tight fit. I had no idea how bad my old tubing wrench was. This recycles. I bet with this tubing wrench, I'll have no problem, or with the crow's foot, I'll have no problem at all getting that off. I mean, I actually had trouble getting the crow's foot on there. That's how tight a fit it is on the tube, on the actual fitting. Let me grab a 3/8 inch drive ratchet. We'll give it a shot. There we go. All right, so everything I said earlier about, yeah, you wanna kind of tap away at this, that's all nonsense. Just get the right tool for the job. All right, Pittsburgh. Our next step is real easy. We just have to take our master cylinder out. It's the 2 bolts over here, and then we're gonna have to go inside down the footwell and disconnect our linkage from the pedal. What the heck? How come nobody said anything? As I was taking those bolts out of that master cylinder, I got to thinking about the next step. Oh my gosh, we still haven't clear coated our new master cylinder. Some of you might be like, what difference does it make? Well, you know, when you're doing this, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time watching the paint dry, you know what I mean? So, knowing that we were going to need to install this, the first step this morning, I should have opened this up and clear coated it. A lot of people will install these without clear coating them. I highly recommend against that, because it only seems to take about a year, and the thing is solid rust. See that cotter pin? That's what we need to remove. And then we just pop the brake switch off and pull the rod out. You can see the rod in this view as well. Zoom out to show you where we're looking. There we are. Got your reference? Let's do this. Right here you can see that our shaft is no longer connected to our brake pedal. So we'll just take the rest out the front in the firewall. There's that same angle that we were looking at earlier. You can clearly see the shaft is no longer connected. All right, now we're at the point where we just have to finish pulling these 2 bolts out, and this whole master cylinder assembly, well, it literally will fall out. There's nothing holding it anymore. This is an important step. You have to make sure the connecting rod that goes to your brake pedal linkage is the same length as the one that came out of the original master cylinder. If it's not, you need to reuse the original one. In this case, they were the same. All right, so you'll be just fine using the new rod. As usual, we made a mistake. Let me show you what I did so you don't make the same mistake. This tube right here that I disconnected, this actually goes to the passenger side front wheel. With the dual cylinder, we want to have one cylinder feed the front brakes and the second cylinder feed the rear brakes, which means we need to disconnect this tube, which feeds the rear brakes. And we need to reconnect this one. With this one disconnected, our new plumbing will have a union that goes from here into the new master cylinder, and this will go to the new master cylinder. That'll be the inlet which feeds the 2 front brakes. We'll put a plug in place of there. So, we're gonna go ahead and fix that. Whoops. Now this is making a bit more sense. You can see, here's our tubing going to our rear brake line. Here's our plug, which is where that tubing used to be. And here's our passenger side front brake line hooked back up. This will be from the front reservoir of the master cylinder, or maybe the rear one, either way. And this will go to the other reservoir of the master cylinder. As you can see, our clear coat has dried beautifully, and we're gonna go ahead and pop our brand new work of art master cylinder into place. We're gonna reuse our old fasteners. We wire brushed them, clean them up. We did make sure to save this patina on the heads, because we want this to match the rest of the engine bay. And what do we always do on fasteners here at CC Top Solutions? That's right, I'm gonna put a little anti-seize on these things to make sure in 20 years when I have to do this again, I can get those bolts out. There we go, engine bay side is done. Everything is hooked up and fairly tight. I suspect I'll have some leaks. Those are intentional. It helps with the bleeding process. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and loosen all of our lug nuts. Then we're gonna jack this up, pull the wheels, pull the drums, and replace all the wheel cylinders. Come along, it'll be a good time. We pulled our front drum off and look what we found. Our shoe actually fell apart. So I had not bought the hardware for that. That's basically gonna make us wrap up for the day. But before we do, behold the power of brake clean. Yeah, like new. Here we go, tricky part. I've gone ahead and I've saturated the fitting with penetrating oil, as you can see right here. And I'm gonna try and just tap this thing, break it free. I give myself pretty good chances that it'll come off without stripping, but if it does strip, well, looks like I'll be buying some new tubing as well. Oh, I broke it free. Although, take note how the whole tube is rotating. That's not great. And if we look closely, we can see that this is falling apart exactly the way that I thought it would. So that was all basically a waste of time. Now I'll be getting new tubes. Great. One take piece of cake. There you have it. We got nice new shoes, new wheel cylinder. We do not yet have our hose, and our new tube is now on the way. That's okay though. One done, 3 to go. Next wheel. Those of you with real keen eyes may have noticed the hardware on the other wheel actually looked brand new. It was not brand new. What I do is I take these pieces. These are the fasteners that actually hold the wheel cylinder in place. You really don't want those getting seized in. And this is your self-adjusting screw. That doesn't work if it's all bound up and corroded and full of old brake dust. So I take them, I run them through the wire wheel, and then I put anti-seize on the threads for both. I recommend everybody do the same. Poof! Like that. Our second set of shoes is installed. Everything looks good. Make sure you grease up your spindle real good and your bearing when you put everything back together. And yeah, these new shoes, they look great. These old springs, they also look great. I'm glad I'm doing this. This is working out nice. Oh, and yes, this tube also let loose. Wah, wah. Luckily the new kit's on the way. Like a young buck in a cougar bar, I had to clean out some serious cobwebs here. You can actually see remnants of quite a few of them, but what I'm doing is just replacing the wheel cylinders, and believe it or not, the rear brake tubing, it broke right free, no problems at all. I didn't even have to use a tubing wrench or the crow's foot, it came right apart. So to replace just the wheel cylinder, you just take all the tension off of your springs, spread the shoes, pull the old cylinder out, pop the new cylinder in. Of course, while I have it this far disassembled, I am going to take the self-adjuster, you can see it clearly right there, and clean that up with the wire brush and put some anti-seize on it. Speaking of spiders, who knows what that little guy is? I don't. It didn't bite me, but it's definitely crawling around in there. I guess I've disrupted his home. Nasty looking little thing. There you go. New wheel cylinder installed. Oh, no, not quite done. Almost done. Gotta put the self-adjuster back in. I didn't feel like bending my own line, so I ended up buying a stainless steel line kit from eBay. It's from a company called Fine Lines, and woo, aren't they fine? They went in real easy. All I have to do is tighten everything up, add some fluid, bleed the brakes, and then op test. Exciting news, project is moving along great. We have our brake system filled up with fluid, and I did pump it, you know, about 100 times, and it did build pressure, so I know nothing's leaking. Now what we're gonna do is a single person brake bleed. We have our pedal held to the floor. Now we're gonna use a vacuum pump at each wheel, starting with the furthest wheels from the master cylinder, to go ahead and basically suck all the air out of the system. For anyone that's not familiar with how this works, you can see that we have our hose there connected to our bleed valve for the brakes. And you see we have our little reservoir here. And here we have our vacuum pump. What we're gonna do is put a little vacuum on this and then open this bleed valve, and all the air should suck out, and any extra fluid will pull right in here. And then we'll close it, and then we'll disconnect the system and move on to the next wheel cylinder. fire this thing up, put some transmission fluid in it, let it come up to temperature, and then we'll do a brake test. Alright, this thing's up to temperature. We topped off our trans fluid. Sounds to be running pretty good. We'll disconnect our choke. Let's back it out. Alright, let's do a brake test. Seems like it worked pretty good. As long as we're out here, let's do it again. I'll test that. Hope you guys had a lot of fun watching. I had a lot of fun filming. See you in the next episode.